Coming up on All About Android, we have a lot of fun tonight. It's me, Jason Howell, Ron Richards, Michelle Rahman joining us, and we talk about the Pixel Drop, a new Pixel Drop. We actually give it a grade, a rating, because there's actually a lot in it. It's pretty significant, so check that out. AT&T hopping on Google's Jibe train for RCS. That's pretty big news. Michelle breaks down the leaked details of the next Tensor chip. That's the Tensor G3, and why it's actually a much bigger step up than the G2 was to the G1. We declare foldable summer is on now with OnePlus coming into, well, the fold, and the messy fallout from Reddit's API debacle. I think we can call it a debacle, right? I'm going to go ahead and call it a debacle. Plus your feedback and a whole lot more coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 634, recorded Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. How do I find them Discords? This episode of All About Android is brought to you by FastMail. Reclaim your privacy, boost productivity, and make email yours with FastMail. Try it now, free for 30 days at fastmail.com/twit. And by CacheFly. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods and 30% faster than other major CDNs. Meet customer expectations 100% of the time. Learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com. It's time for All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
There we go. And Q.
And I'm Michelle Rahman.
It was a little late going to you. How you doing, Michelle? How you doing, Ron? It's good to see you both. Welcome to another episode.
Good to be back.
Of All About Android. We do not have Wynn here this evening. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but
it's just three dudes talking Android this week. That's
three dudes talking Android.
Three bros, three Android pals.
Okay, don't unsubscribe. We promise it'll be better than this might make it sound like it's going to be. There's actually a lot of really big news that we're going to talk about. And once again, Michelle, it's a great episode to have you on because much of this you have what is it, unrolled in thread format on Twitter. So we've got a lot of the things that you posted there to dive a little bit deeper on. We've got a Pixel Drop. We've got all sorts of stuff. Lots of fun stuff. A little bit of rumory stuff happening in the hardware. But I can't help myself. Like, I don't know. Did I miss something major that wasn't rumor that we should have in there? You can let us know, AAA@twit.tv. But why don't we just jump right into it and cue the news bumper? Let's talk about some news.
I think Gwen is just celebrating the Denver Nuggets win last night.
Oh, I see. So she's recovering.
Yes, yeah.
That could be.
Possibly.
That very well could be. That is a realm that I pay no attention to.
None. Me either.
Should I say that she's from...
Yeah, she's from there. Yeah, she's from that area, the Denver area. So it might actually be true, but I'm guessing it's probably not. Maybe it is though. And if so, you know what? You do you. You do you. All right, Ron, you got
it's their first championship. So.
Oh, okay. So then that's actually a really big deal. So congratulations, Denver Nuggets.
Is it though? Well,
I mean, it is to them.
I'll tell you what is a big deal though. It is Pixel's June feature drop, which has landed. If you got a Pixel phone, so going to run through this sort of stuff, and there's a lot, so let's absorb it. Now you can use Assistant and your voice to initiate emergency sharing or to schedule a safety check. So you could say, "Hey G, start a safety check for 30 minutes." And once that time is up, if you don't respond, your emergency contacts will be notified and a real-time location shared with them, which is like pretty good if you're possibly going to meet a serial killer. That's a very good
going out for a run. Maybe you don't know.
Safety is important. That's
yes,
good.
Indeed.
And that location sharing with emergency contacts now extends to the car crash detection functionality as well too. So making your Pixel that much more safer. It's pretty cool. Additionally, the Pixel 7 Pro gets a new video mode called macro focus for close-up video shots, which, as somebody who often zooms in to take video of my kids across the yard, I like the sound of that. Also for hands-free photos on Pixel 6 and newer phones, you can raise a palm to fire off a timer-triggered photo at 3 or 10 seconds intervals, which is pretty cool.
So when you're raising your hand to say, no, don't take a picture, it'll take a picture.
It's going to start the countdown at that point. Yeah, exactly.
No, don't do that. Yeah.
And then with a little bit of a callback to Google I/O, Pixel 6 and newer phones get the cinematic wallpapers that were shown at Google I/O, which is pretty cool. And also haptics get smarter and adjust based on whether or not they're on a table or not, which if you've ever had your phone on a table and the haptics go off and I'm glad to hear that they're getting smarter and knowing where the phone is and adjusting accordingly. Additionally, there are new assistant voices if you want to change up what your assistant sounds like. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't pull out the samples. I should have found those so that we could play through them, but I heard them on I think This Week in Google last Wednesday. They played them, and there's a solid amount of voices now. They're getting rid of the celebrity voices, but
which I think is fine.
The standard stock. I mean, those things are only going to last for so long.
Yeah. And lastly, if you've got a Pixel Watch, a couple of updates as well. You can check your oxygen saturation, your SpO2, and identify changes in the level of oxygen in your blood while you're sleeping. So if you're one of those people who want to track that stuff, there's more data to track. And also you get notifications if your heart rate is unusually high or low during continuous monitoring. And it also supports auto pause when you're out running. So some adjustments with the Pixel Watch too this June. So Michelle, if you had to rate this Pixel drop, if you had to give it a letter grade, A+ being the best and F being a failure, where would you rank this Pixel drop this month?
I'm curious.
I mean, to be fair, compared to some previous Pixel drops that have been kind of duds, this one is definitely a lot more substantial than.
It's meaty.
I think even the March one was not that. Yeah. The March one was pretty underwhelming. This one is definitely a lot more whelming. So and I think there was one feature that I was added in this drop that I think you missed that I was actually really excited for. It's the Google Home, the Home panel one, the one where you get like a more detailed interface for controlling your Google Home devices from your lock screen. So especially if you're with the upcoming Pixel tablet, you'll have like a home button right on the lock screen. You can just tap that. And you can even see your cameras. You can change a lot more things right from your lock screen. Previously, the interface, if you're familiar, you open your Pixel phone, you tap the home button in the quick settings or the lock screen. It's kind of like a bare bones, like just simple on and off toggle. The new interface is going to be a lot more, I guess, prettier is the right word to use there.
Is that the technical term?
The technical term. It's beautiful.
Right on. All right, so give me a grade, man. It sounds like you're appreciating this Pixel drop.
You are the teacher at Android.
At Android U at Android University. Michelle, based off everything you say, this sounds like the best Pixel drop ever.
I would give this a B+, because if you consider some previous Pixel feature drops have included Android OS updates. And I think those always just get an A because you can't beat an entire OS upgrade like with like a hodgepodge of random Google app features. So this is definitely one of the better ones. But I think once Android 14 is released and you call that a Pixel feature drop, you can't beat that.
Well, true. Yeah, I feel like that's another level of it, but that's fair. We're giving a little window into Michelle's mind here of how he grades these Pixel drops. So, all right, so B+. So really good. A little room for it to be a little better, but which is good. So we want to keep it.
There's not really much room for better than this. I mean, they introduced the cinematic wallpaper, the emoji wallpaper, the home panel, all these other features.
Well, now it sounds like B+ is a little harsh, though. Would you knock it up to an A- now? Or?
I mean, maybe I'll just adjust my grading scale and say instead of an A being the top, an S is the top. You know, we'll go like I don't know, like racing or something. You know, like S is your top rank in some video game, right? We'll say S tier is the OS updates, and A tier is this.
All right.
I think B plus is fair. If in our ranking kind of approach, a major OS update, is what is required to at least make it into the A round, then we didn't get that, but we got we got a lot of stuff here. We didn't even mention the fact that this update has some changes for Fitbit devices as well. So it's not just Wear OS, it's not just the Android OS, it's also Fitbit. So it's even wider reaching than we were even talking about before. So yeah, I'd say B plus is pretty darn fair.
All right,
that's where I would land on that.
Android gets a B plus this week on All About Android. There's your promotional quote. There's your out quote. Put it on the ad on the side of a bus. Android gets a B plus. All About Android.
The wallpapers. It's not just the
cinematic.
the cinematic wallpapers either. It's also the emoji wallpaper. If you really care about that, I don't know. I feel like that got a lot of snickers from the audience when that was announced. Like, oh, okay, great, emoji wallpapers. But so hey, even more that we didn't mention. There's they also have some updates to the Recorder app, which is just a really fantastic app. And it's doing a better job of understanding speakers and kind of relaying the difference between the different voices within and allowing you to kind of generate speaker labeled video clips based on the stuff that you recorded. So I imagine that's like, you could export a certain portion. I haven't tested it, but I'm assuming that means you can export a certain portion of the audio recording as a video with kind of, possibly the waveform and the text of that particular clip playing. So that could be useful for like social media applications. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. Sometimes these feature drops feel like a random hodgepodge of really minor features that it kind of feels like Google's thinking, well, if we have 20 incredibly minor features that we release all at once, then that adds up to one major release. And it doesn't always turn out that way. Sometimes it really, like, I interpret the feature drop as like, really, these were just like hanging out, and you're like, well, let's just release them all at once and call it a thing. This one seems a little bit more substantial, at least. Some of those things that were talked about at Google I/O coming to fruition. And, people are looking forward to those. So that's great.
Yeah.
I like
B plus. It's a B plus.
Now, I think this transitions into Android 14 Beta 3, which was released last week. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, Michelle, I was looking through the thread, and you do a great job in your Twitter thread of saying, I'm not going to talk about the features that were already available in previous versions. This is just new stuff. And I was looking through it. I was ready to start transcribing and everything. And I was like, God, this all seems incredibly minor. Like, I'm just going to ask Michelle, is there anything here that you're really excited about? Because I couldn't find much. What did I miss?
To be fair, the reason it sounds incredibly minor is because we are nearing like the final release of Android 14.
Yeah, totally.
Beta 3,
there's not going to be
Android
major revolutionary changes happening.
Yeah,
close
because
you're right.
They released it, as it says in the title right there. Android 14 has reached platform stability with Beta 3, and what that means is that all the APIs and any behaviors in the OS that would affect apps have been finalized. So in future betas, none of that's going to be changing. So everything in Android 14 is pretty much finalized, with the exception for bug fixes and the occasional minor, quality of life change that doesn't really impact applications in any way. So yeah, there's not going to be very many, impactful changes in future Android 14 betas, but down the road, once the QPR beta program opens up again, we'll start seeing more and more user-facing changes. But there are some things to look forward to in Android 14 Beta 3. One of them is like the first thing you'll notice when you plug in your phone to charge, there's going to be a little chip on the top right that shows your percentage, briefly for like a split second. That's probably something a lot of people noticed immediately once they update it, because, how many people plug in their phones?
Right, you plug in a lot. Yeah, totally.
The other big thing is, with the Pixel feature drop today, we got some of the features that Google announced at I/O, but with Beta 3, we also got some of the other features that Google announced at I/O, such as the new lock screen shortcut customization feature, the new lock screen clock customizations, the new updated wallpaper and style UI. So there's a lot of things there that I think are pretty exciting, to be honest. If you're at least if you're a Pixel user, because these features, at least so far, at least the clock customization is Pixel exclusive, but the shortcuts will likely be available on other devices, depending on whether or not the OEM implements them into their respective skin. And there are a whole bunch of other minor tweaks. You can, you can look over my thread if you're interested. There's a new updated gesture navigation tutorial that teaches you how to use gesture navigation, which I'm assuming, if you're listening to this show, you know how to use gestures.
Probably do by now.
Yeah, you probably do. If you use a large screen device, Google is working on a way for you to change between the two different taskbars. So like in Android 14, you have the transient taskbar that like you swipe up from the bottom, it shows for a few seconds and then it disappears. They're working on a way for you to switch between that and the older taskbar that stays persistently on screen. They once again added the ability to tap on the clock in the quick settings to open the clock app. They changed the colors for themed icons. So if you use the themed icons feature, you might notice that the colors that it pulls from are slightly different in Beta 3. And there's a whole bunch of other smaller, minor under the hood tweaks in Beta 3 that aren't really worth mentioning, as Jason said.
They're worth mentioning if you worked on the feature, and
there are actually some. There's actually one more thing, like two more things that hint at future changes, like continued work on desktop mode. So like when you resize a window, there's like a new animation for resizing it. It just shows that they are continuing to work on desktop mode behind the scenes, and we're just waiting for a Pixel to finally support external displays. And then also they're doing new stylus changes. So like there's this, if you have a stylus connected to your Android 14 device, there's like some stylus specific settings you can pick from, like changing the default Notes app or choosing what happens when you press the button on the stylus. So other changes like that are also continually being worked on.
So if we're close, are we ready to start picking a release date? Like, are we ready to start doing the over-under like on August? Like, didn't it come out last year, like July? Wasn't it super early last year?
Wasn't it August? Yeah, I think it was August. It was relatively early, but no comment on release date. Like, I mean, I can't, Google hasn't publicly confirmed one, and I can't confirm one, but...
No, I'm not talking about confirming anything, Michelle.
Okay, yeah.
If we had to pick a date, do you think we're going to see it?
Well, let's say...
early August.
Just from what I've heard, like Android 14, I guess the beta has been not as stable as previous betas. So I'm wondering if Google will actually delay a little bit in releasing it, like they did with Android 12. Android 12 was delayed for like at least a few weeks compared to when it was expected to be released. So I wonder if they might do the same thing with Android 14.
We'll see.
Because we've got...
We'll tell.
Right now, this is Beta 3. We've got RC1 is the next, right? Doesn't that happen sometime? I mean, or do we not even do the RC1s anymore?
I think Beta 4 and 5 are those have been confirmed. Like, those are listed on the timeline as coming. We don't know exactly when they'll drop, but they could release a Beta 6, if they really need to. Like, there's nothing saying they can't release more betas.
Right. But if there's at least two more betas, if it were to be a release sometime in the August-ish area, which based on what you're saying, might end up being August, maybe September, which would bring us closer to what it's been in the past. Each month leading up to it, we're going to have another beta.
Just to give context, and this is what we'll do. This is the game we'll play here, right? Over under. All right. Michelle, will you take a bet on August 15th? Before August 15th or after?
Ron really wants you to name a date, to guess a date.
Definitely after.
After? You think it's going to be after? Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Android 12 came out on October 4th.
Oh, boy. So it's not going to be that late. Not going to be that.
Android 11 came out September 8th. So
that's kind of more in line with, I think. Yeah. Where my mind is. And my mind is only there because of what you just said, Michelle.
So, Jason, you're going to go. Before
then, I was going to say sometime in August, but now I've got doubts.
All right. So you can say after August. I'm going to be contrarian and say before August 15th, just so I can go nah if I'm right.
Okay.
So,
all right. Hey, somebody's got to do it.
Exactly.
Somebody when they spin the wheel of fortune, they've got to yell out one so that they are
exactly
underneath everybody else.
Talk about somebody got to do it. Okay to move on here?
Yeah.
We good? All right.
I'm so curious about what you're about to say.
Someone's got to do it, right? And sure enough, who knew? It was AT&T. AT&T has now made the switch from its own RCS platform to Google's Jibe platform. It was announced last week by our good friend of the show, Hiroshi Lockheimer, on Twitter, where Hiroshi went to Twitter to say, quote, "Today, I'm excited to share that we're working with AT&T to accelerate adoption of the RCS standard, and that AT&T's default Android messaging will now be via the Jibe platform, so their users will get the latest RCS features instantly." Which is great, which I can only assume means that if someone's on AT&T and using RCS, whether they're using Google Messages or not, it will still work, right, Jason? Michelle, is that correct? Or,
the tweet was kind of vague. I forgot. Does AT&T have its own proprietary messaging app? Because if so, I think what they're saying is that they're going to switch. Because I know AT&T has offered, like, they called it something specific, like their own RCS implementation was something specific. I don't remember the name, but whatever they're using, whether or not they switch all their default phones to use Google Messages, which already uses Jibe from Google on the back end, or they're using their own AT&T Messages app, the implication is that both will still provide Jibe. So it'll be interoperable with what pretty much every other Android phone uses for RCS.
So it looks as if AT&T does have AT&T Android Messages app. So it is on there.
That sounds like a great app.
I know, doesn't it? Right?
That's the messaging app I want on my phone.
Yep. So according to Google's generative AI response, if you're looking for a messaging app with a lot of features and functionality, the AT&T Android Messages app is a great option.
Oh boy.
It's easy to use, reliable, and secure.
Oh boy.
It's literally just copying and pasting marketing.
-1 for Bard.
Thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Believe me, I've used it.
But yeah, so it's definitely is exciting to see, kind of AT&T stepping up to the challenge and doing all this sort of stuff. But it does leave a lot of users in response saying, well, what about Google Voice? Which
I've seen a lot of comments about that. They're like, oh yeah, if it's so important for everybody, and I see that also in response to Google going so hard on Apple, using RCS or supporting RCS, and everybody comes back with like, well, why can't you support it with Google Voice?
Yeah.
Is there a good reason why that it can't be? I don't know. Like maybe there's a technological.
It's got to be a tech debt thing. I think just because like when was the last time we've seen any infrastructure update to Google Voice whatsoever? Right. So like I gotta imagine
updates and stuff, but
it's got to be so behind in the loop of updates that hopefully they're working on something to give Google Voice a little shot in the arm. But it just seems like it's another it's in that nebulous zone between are they going to kill it or are they or is it just going to carry on with no updates?
So here's a question that's kind of coming to me right now. So AT&T now basically more or less all in on Google's version of RCS, which is Jibe. Verizon and T-Mobile have their own implementation of RCS that is interoperable with the Jibe platform, if I'm not mistaken, the way AT&T was. If Verizon and T-Mobile did what AT&T did, like if this is the beginning of a precedent that is set and this is the inevitability, let's say in a fantasy world, all three of these networks are using Jibe for RCS. Is that any more convincing for Apple, do you think? Be like, oh, well, it's no longer the carriers doing their own thing and blah, blah, blah. Like they're fully supporting this, obviously, so maybe we should. Still no
I
go,
think they're
right?
fully aware of, the backlash and the concern that they're, basically locking teenagers in. And I think that's part of the sell for them. I definitely think they're aware and they love to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
Wah, wah, indeed.
Wah, wah, indeed.
Although there was a recent report that said, I think we in the tech media kind of overhype how important iMessage lock-in really is. I think there was a survey of Android users who switched to iPhone, and I don't even think it was one of the top reasons. iMessage wasn't in the top reasons for why they switched. It was just because an iPhone had a feature that their Android phone didn't, and that was it. And price also, the kind of reasons you would typically assume, any value-oriented customer. Mostly it's not because of like ecosystem lock-in that drew them in. It was just because of the typical reasons why someone would purchase a piece of consumer hardware, because they got a good deal for it.
It offers
what
that.
they want.
I want that. So
yeah,
yeah, totally. Which is not to say that there's no one that moves over, but I think you're probably right. We put a megaphone in front of these things because it's important to us. Is that representative of the everyday average user necessarily? Yeah, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It kind of sounds like it's probably not as much as we might believe, but interesting. Okay, and then finally we've got Android TV 13, no longer a thing. Apparently Google is going to quote retire Android TV 13. Actually, this is a quote from Mishal, who said this in his tweet. They're basically going to be increasing their focus on Android TV 14. Yeah. So why is this a big deal? What is the big deal about Google kind of skipping Android TV 13 and jumping right to Android TV 14?
Well, I think it's a big deal because Android TV 13 was something they actually dedicated time to at I/O last year. Like it had a release that went through beta programs. Like it's been given to partners. They've had presentations on it. So like it's a whole thing. It was a whole release. It's not like they just were developing it internally and then scrapped it. No, it was already publicly available, and there were OEMs, there were developers who were actively developing on top of it. But now Google's saying, never mind. Let's just pretend that didn't happen and let's move to Android 14. And it's not it's like that. They're saying that they want to focus on Android TV 14. They didn't really tell a reason. Like they still haven't publicly confirmed this news, by the way. Like this news was first reported on by 9to5Google, who saw a code change in the Android open source project that basically said, yes, we're retiring Android TV 13. We're no longer going to be recommending it to developers in Android Studio. And then I later reached out to a source who confirmed this news for me, who told me that Google was telling Android TV OEMs that, we're retiring Android TV 13 and we're instead focusing on Android TV 14. And, they said it in the way that you would expect like a marketing press release to be saying it. We want to focus on features and, we want to do the best for our users and all that stuff. You can imagine like in your mind what a press release version of this would sound like. But I'm guessing the underlying reasons might have to do with maybe adoption, because TV industry moves relatively slowly in terms of like updates and hardware releases. So I'm guessing like there weren't that many partners or OEMs who were actually picking up Android 13. So maybe they saw it's better if we just skip a release and just go straight to the next OS platform instead of releasing this and then maybe 2 years later only one TV has this.
Right.
Like what's the point of releasing a TV OS every year if there's no one who's running it?
That just reminds me of Wear OS 3. Yeah. And it's
like Wear OS already does that.
It was like one watch running Wear OS 3 there in the beginning. All that work for one watch for like a year. There was no one else really running the OS for whatever reason on their device.
Wear OS has actually been doing that twice now. So Wear OS 2 was based on Android 11. Wear OS 3 is based on Wear OS 2 was based on Android 9. Wear OS 3 is based on Android 11, and now Wear OS 4 is based on Android 13. So they skipped a release twice now. So they went from Android 9 to Android 11 to Android 13, and now Android TV is doing the same, going from Android 12 to Android 14.
And I'm not surprised, honestly. I'm not to everything that we talked about, given the OEMs and manufacturing and like lead times and things like that. I mean, hell, like when was the last time you bought a TV that was like, this just came out today and it's a brand new TV? Like even when I got my TV a couple of years ago, it was last year's model, right? Like because they're manufacturing this stuff and putting it out in Best Buy and that sort of thing. So it moves at a slower pace than phones, clearly.
Yeah, right. And that's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. I mean, some people are buying a new TV, near to the moment that it's announced and released and everything, but TVs kind of sit on the shelf. Ooh, that's a tough one right there. Go ahead and throw that down in the notes. Sit on the shelf. for a lot longer than phones might. You know, you might have a model of a TV on a shelf for a couple of years still selling. And what version of Android TV is that one running? The minute you set that up at home, it's gonna put through an automatic update, you know, to the latest version.
Whenever this topic comes up, I go back to the wise words of Mr. Patrick Norton, friend of the show and longtime friend of ours, who, you know, years and years and years told me, never buy a TV for the software that's embedded in the TV, because it will not be the latest. It won't be updatable. You'll be stuck with that. Always just buy a TV for the monitor, for the panel, and then plug new stuff into it. Right, because when you plug in devices into your TV, you have control over what version it is. And hell, with the price of TVs that they are, if I wanted the latest and greatest Google TV, I'd much rather buy a new $50, $60 Chromecast dongle and plug it in than have to drop the $1,000+ whatever for a new TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a reminder of that, to me at least. But
yes, indeed. All right. Well, we've got some hardware news coming up. We've got some really interesting app news coming up, so don't go anywhere. That's coming up shortly. But first, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and then we will get back to the news. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by FastMail. This is how you can make email work for you. We spend so much time with email. You might as well make it work for you. That's what FastMail is all about. You can customize your workflow in a number of different ways. Colors, custom swipes, night mode. That's just to name a few. FastMail now has quick settings, by the way. So if you're using FastMail, you can now find some quick settings in the quick settings menu. You can choose new theme. So switching between light mode and dark mode, you can change your text size without leaving the FastMail screen that you're actually looking at. Quick settings will also offer options related to the FastMail screen that you're viewing. So contextually dialed into what you're viewing. You can generate a new masked email address. You can show or hide your reading pane, switch between folders and labels, and more. You can also choose to autosave contacts or choose to show public images of senders from external services like Gravatar. And then there's reminders, setting default reminders for events, changing how those invitations are actually handled through email, or you can turn notifications or for calendar alerts on and off. This is all from the quick settings. Super powerful single place to make just tons of customization changes to your FastMail experience. Now you can add or buy a domain through FastMail as well. They will set all the records up for you, so it actually works immediately. Really handy. FastMail gives you the ability to send and receive emails from your own domain and manage multiple email addresses in one space. That's going to help keep you organized and protect your personal data in the process. For more than 20 years, FastMail has been a leader in email privacy. Wizardling in Discord says, I heart FastMail. There you go. That's all you need to know. The FastMail team believes in working for customers as people to be cared for, not products to be exploited. Advertisers are actually left out. That puts you at the center. So if you didn't already know this, you pay for free email with your privacy, as they, often say, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. There we go. At FastMail, your data stays yours with better productivity features for as little as $3 a month. FastMail even has better spam filters. And like I said, no ads, absolutely no ads in FastMail. And privacy isn't all you get with FastMail. Superior productivity tools with scheduled send, snooze, folders, labels, search bar, all that stuff included. Plus, you can keep track of all of the important details in your life easily with FastMail's powerful sidebar. It also works with password managers. So if you're using Bitwarden, 1Password, this is going to make it easy for you to create unique passwords for every account and safely store them on your device. And finally, it's great on desktop. It's great on mobile, especially when you download the FastMail app. You're going to get the most out of your email on your mobile device when you do that. It's easy to download your old data. You can import it into your new FastMail inbox and make importing a breeze. FastMail is moving email forward with new internet standards, open source innovations that power many email services other than their own. So don't get left behind by substandard email providers. You can reclaim your privacy and boost productivity with FastMail. Try it now. You can get it free for 30 days to see what you think about it. We know you're going to love it at fastmail.com/twit. That's fastmail, FASTMAIL, fastmail.com/twit. Check it out for yourself. And yeah, you're going to love it. We thank FastMail for their support of All About Android. I know Wizardling loves it. Wizardling is still talking about FastMail in our Discord. Thank you, Wizardling, for that. Fastmail.com/twit. All right, it's time for some juicy pieces of hardware news. Let's get to it. Juicy. Chunky.
Oh,
what other adjectives can we come up with for our hardware news here?
Hardy
hardware news. That almost sounds like hardy har.
Do I need to
Hardy
find
har
sound
har.
effects?
No, stay away from the sound effects. We're good.
Please.
All right. So right at the top of hardware this week, thought we would have with you, Michelle. You and I, we were chatting last week before the show, and I think that the Tensor G3, I think is what it's called, that the Tensor 3 news had just kind of leaked. And we thought, you know what, let's hold on to this until Michelle comes on so he can really kind of dive deep on some of this stuff. We've got new Tensor information. We've got that's coming in the Pixel 8. We've got the Pixel 8's camera specs, and it all seems to kind of interplay with each other. So let's start with the Tensor first. The Tensor 2 was an improvement to the Tensor 1, but I would say by all accounts, it wasn't like a major earth-shattering improvement. Does it seem like the Tensor 3 is going to be a much larger step forward in terms of what it's capable of in the Pixel 8?
So the Tensor G2, as you mentioned, was not an earth-shattering improvement over the G1, except for the upgraded modem, which was significantly better in many people's experiences. So the Tensor G3 will not be making any major modem improvements, according to this leaked according to these leaked specifications from Android Authority, actually specifically Kamila Wojciechowska. Sorry if I mispronounced that. But yes, this is a new report that details everything they know so far about the Tensor G3 chipset. And the gist of it is that while there aren't any earth-shattering improvements in the Tensor G3 processor, they, as in Google, are making substantial improvements to the CPU performance. So in previous generations, the CPU performance has kind of been generally underwhelming compared to other flagship chipsets at the time. The Tensor G3, while it's not going to be using, ARM's latest Cortex X4, all those new CPU designs that they just announced like a couple of weeks ago, they will be using more competitive CPUs. So they'll be using reportedly one Cortex X3, 4 A715s, and 4 A510s. So it'll be a lot more in line with the current crop of 2023/late 2022 flagship devices in terms of CPU performance.
Okay. All right. So that sounds very promising. But this also ties into some of the camera news. I know that the part of the leaked camera spec for the Pixel 8 had to do with 4K video, right? 4K 30 frames per second, and that's enabled by the Tensor G3. Am I getting that right? No, sorry, not 4K, 8K. Sorry, got that wrong. 8K 30 frames per second video capture, and that is enabled because of the Tensor G3. Did I get that right?
So a little caveat on that, like as the report says, also from Camilla for Android Authority, both the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro will reportedly upgrade to the Samsung ISOCELL GN2 image sensor for their primary. This is a much larger sensor that supports up to 35% more light intake, so better low light shots. And as you mentioned, Jason, it does support 8K video at 30 frames per second video capture.
Wow.
But what's unclear is whether or not the Google Camera app will actually allow you to take 8K video. So just because the image sensor can process that doesn't mean that the camera app will let you do that. I mean, maybe maybe it won't, because maybe Google is concerned. Maybe the device will overheat.
I was going to say that device is going to get darn hot. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not actually available to users just because the sensor supports it.
But it's there. But it's capable. At least a developer option for those of us who like to, fly close to the sun, I guess. What else do we need to know about this camera setup? I'm looking at the diagram here. We had heard that there was going to be some sort of a thermometer sensor, and it turns out, at least according to this article, it looks like that's going to happen on the 8 Pro. So if you need a thermometer,
it is worth noting that this, the author of this article is the same person who also previously leaked the existence of that temperature sensor. So it's not like this corroborates that.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
It's a good indication that it'll probably happen. But the other noteworthy upgrade in the Pro model, at least, is the upgrade from the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera in the previous generation to a new 64 megapixel Sony IMX787, which I believe many have noted that the Pixel 7a uses that, I believe, for its main camera, whereas the Pixel 8 Pro will reportedly be using this sensor for its ultra wide angle camera.
Oh, okay. And I've gotten really used to the Pixel 7a main camera. I'm still actually on the 7a. I keep meaning to kind of transition to my next phone. I've got so many phones right now. I can't really talk about them. But so I have to transition off of this. But that's what keeps me there. Like the Pixel 7a, like it takes really great pictures. And so I guess I will continue to, not that I would doubt that with the Pixel 8, that the camera system and that the pictures that it would take would be any less awesome than what I'm used to with Pixels. That's one of the things I love about the Pixels. So that's good news. That's the 64 megapixel, but binning down, right?
Most likely, yeah. It's unclear if Google would allow you to take full resolution 64 megapixel shots. It's not something they've done in the past for their their high resolution sensors. So it's unclear if they'll do the same or they'll actually allow it for users this time.
Yeah. Another piece of news about the camera, the time of flight camera that's included on the Pixel 8 is going to see some improvements. An 8x8 time of flight sensor.
Yep. There's a lot of details in both this article and the Tensor G3 article. So I highly recommend you read over them if you're interested in the Pixel 8 series.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. Good exclusives coming from Android Authority. Way to go, Camila. That is some good stuff. Thank you, Michelle. All right, Ron. So this is two stories that are pretty exciting.
Yeah, we got a twofer coming up for you.
Yep.
We got a twofer coming up. Woke up this morning to a lovely email in my inbox from the fine folks at Nothing announcing that the Nothing Phone 2 launch event is on the horizon, July 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern. You want to mark your calendar, 11/11, make a wish. 7-Eleven, there you go, get a Slurpee and then dig right in for it. You can go to nothing.tech on the web, and you can sign up to be reminded for the event, and you too can attend the virtual event where they will roll out the Nothing Phone 2. Very, very exciting. And Smart Pricks worked with OnLeaks to provide an exclusive look at device renders based on pictures taken of a testing stage unit. And the LEDs on the back are redesigned so they're broken lines when compared to the one, which were kind of singular line, and designed and produced with sustainability in mind, with 100% recycled materials in the aluminum frame and 100% renewable energy used. So it's looking like Nothing is going to up their game with Phone 2. And as we all know, this phone is going to be, they're angling towards it being available in the US for the first time. So, whereas the Nothing Phone 1 wasn't, it was, but it was a pain in the butt to do. But, so big moment for Nothing Phone 2. They will have the stage on July 11th. I'll be there to watch, and we'll see. We don't want to spoil anything, but working on getting our hands on this phone, right? And so, we'll be looking forward to playing with it. If, knock on wood, if all goes well, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Victor, if you go back to that Smart Pre, or is it Smart Pricks or Smart Pre? I'm not sure how they pronounce that, but that site, and you scroll down, you'll get shots. They did the thing in the hero image where they had last year's, and then the actual shots are down below the air quotes fold. So you kind of see, if you zoom in on that, you can kind of see how those LEDs are broken into more stylistic kind of segments as opposed to it's singular. Subtle, but I guess it's not if the lights were out.
Now I would say, like, I'm curious as to, like, design paradigm wise, according to these renders at least, not much different from the Phone 1, right?
No,
and so, like, yes, they're breaking up the LEDs a little more, but, like, I would have expected a little more, not dramatic, but at least a little more of a less than subtle change in the look, just to differentiate the two. But I guess they don't have. I mean, it's only a year later. How many Phone 1s are actually out there in the world? I guess they don't have to really overcome it,
To be fair, even though it might not differentiate itself very much from the first phone, it still differentiates itself from pretty much every other phone. I can't count the number of phones that actually look anything close to this.
Totally.
Good point.
Totally. Yeah, it's in its own league as far as the design is concerned. You certainly look at that if you are at all in the know on Android devices. You look at that and you immediately know exactly what it is, as opposed to a whole lot of other candy bar phones that look very, very similar to each other.
Which is what I've been railing against for years. Like, that's why I love the Pixel line currently, right?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like a Star Trek phone, and like this looks like some wild, weird, like, prop. I definitely want. I don't want just a regular candy bar black. But that's why, like, good on you with the OnePlus with those big circles, right? Good. Like, go for it. I love differentiating the look of these phones. And speaking of OnePlus, Jason.
Go ahead and give me the easy segue. OnePlus' eagerly awaited foldable might actually be coming sooner than you think. Price Baba Daily says the OnePlus Fold will get a New York event during the first half of August, is what they wrote. Expected to get a global release, but initially US and India for the OnePlus Foldable. So if you're waiting, it sounds like you're not going to have to wait more than a couple of months. This is like foldable summer.
Foldable summer, I love it. It's like that. There you go. We should make a T-shirt. This is foldable summer, and it's like a beach scene, and like people are sitting on foldable phones, and like
the beach chairs are foldable phones.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, I love it.
This is a great prompt for AI. Yeah.
As we head into foldable summer, are you guys team book or team flip? Because I saw an article by The Verge, I think it was published earlier today, that said, like, every phone should be a flip phone. And I
was just gonna say I haven't got to use one as a true daily driver, but based on the thickness alone, I think I'm team flip. Because I feel like team book when folded, like, I like the idea of book being tablety, like when it's opened and like kind of a good reading device and that sort of thing. But the expense of the folded, and it being this thick, long kind of thing versus going compact little square that opens up to the size of a regular phone, I think I'm going to go flip. I don't know, Jason. Where do you land?
I'm right there with you. I think from a practicality standpoint, anytime I've had the folds and I've had, and I carry my phones in my pocket, and that fold goes in my pocket, and it feels like I'm carrying a brick around with me, and it's really hard to ignore in the way that I'm used to ignoring. And it probably took me a while to get used to this. I've been throwing these, large phones in my pant pocket for a long time now, so I'm just used to it. So maybe I'd get used to it with a fold, but it still just kind of feels like a brick versus the flip that really feels like compact, and like, I'm already used to this as the form factor of the thing that I do when I'm out and about anyways. If I can get this smaller most of the time, then I'm game. But I do, again, like you, I like the idea of being able to have a tablet on a whim. But in practical terms, I don't enjoy having a brick in my pocket while I walk around everywhere.
So, Michelle, where do you land?
So I think actually, eventually maybe in a couple of years, once we've ditched the candy bar phone entirely and everyone's using some kind of foldable, I think we'll see like two kinds of users. The average casual user, for them, the candy bar will be replaced by the flip phone because it's basically a flip phone that just folds in half and becomes compact. But for the pro users, the ones who want to multitask with 2 or 3 apps, the ones who want to read things on the go, I think that kind of user, like, the users that Samsung used to appeal to with the Note line, and they still kind of do with the Ultra line, like those kind of users, I think would gravitate towards the book style foldables.
Mm-hmm. And yet you didn't answer the question.
Yeah. So which side of this?
Look at this fence sitter right here.
Yeah. Which one right now? looking at 2 foldables on the table, like Samsung, OnePlus, whatever you think they might be. Which one do you grab? Which one do you use, or the Pixel or whatever? Assuming that they're the same, do you go book or do you go flip? Put you on the spot.
I'll go book only because I use my phone too much already, and I think it would just save me like from staring at a smaller screen. If I'm going to use my phone all the time, I might as well do it on a slightly bigger screen. That's how I'll justify it to myself.
There you go.
Yeah, that's all good. Yep. So.
Well, Ron, I think this is a great question for us to throw out to our audience.
I agree.
Email us, AAA at twit.tv. This is your challenge this week. Send us an email and let us know. Are you team fold or team flip? Or is it team book? I'm so used to it being fold, but I guess book is probably...
Yeah,
probably more
fold
accurate.
Or flip. I mean, fold. Let's go. Yeah, or book or flip or whatever. Whatever you want to be.
Flip.
But,
team book or team flip. AAA at twit.tv. Let us know what and why you are.
And not to spoil next week, but you're not going to get email of the week unless you respond to that question. So and one answer from this question will be the email of the week. I'm up in the stakes there, Jason. So thank you. So make sure you email us and let us know whether you're team book or team flip and why. Give us do your math. Show us your work.
Love it. So. Yes. Definitely show us your work. Awesome.
All right, cool. All right, so let's take a pause before we talk about some apps and thank our next sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by the fine folks at CacheFly. And listen, we've learned that viewers don't hang around for videos that buffer. That's so years ago. Shoppers abandon carts in e-commerce on sites that are slow, and gamers leave bad reviews when the latency is high. So be ready for those fluctuations with CacheFly. Customers expect a faultless experience when engaging with content on any device, anytime, anywhere in the world. Building trusted CDN relationships since 1999, CacheFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery for 2 decades. In fact, CacheFly pioneered the use of TCP Anycast in 2002, an innovation that CDNs continue to build upon. Quality of experience is the single most critical metric when serving content simultaneously to a large and distributed audience on a global scale, and your delivery stack can be your secret weapon. With CacheFly, you'll get ultra-low latency video streaming that will deliver video to more than 1 million concurrent users. Also, you get lightning-fast gaming, which will deliver downloads faster with 0 lag, glitches, or outages. They've got mobile content optimization that offers automatic and simple image optimization so your site loads faster on any device. And CacheFly is the only CDN built for throughput, delivering rich media content up to 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods and 30% faster than other major CDNs. And plus, never pay for service overlap again. Get flexible month-to-month billing for as long as you need it, and discounts for fixed terms once you're happy. Design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. With more than 3,500 clients in over 80 countries, organizations consistently choose CacheFly for scalability, reliability, and unrivaled performance. And you're probably wondering how we know all this? Well, Twit's been using CacheFly for over a decade, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com. That's cachefly.com, and we thank them for keeping the content flowing and keeping us engaged and keeping everything working nicely. Thank you, CacheFly. We appreciate it.
Thanks for keeping the data flowing. The audio and video data flowing to all of y'all. Thank you, CacheFly. All right. And with that, we've got some pretty interesting app news coming up next. Boy, it's getting real out there. Are either of you like Reddit? Well, no, I know the answer to this with you, Michelle. You're very active on Reddit, right? You're usually pretty active on Reddit in the Android subreddit, at least. Yeah. What about you, Ron?
I'm a lurker. I'm a Reddit lurker. I don't have the time or the patience to engage in the conversation, but I need to be there for work and monitoring some stuff. So I'm familiar with the Reddit. But man, this is a pickle, as they say in the business.
It's getting nutso, and I don't think it's going to end the way anyone who's participating in the big backlash hopes that it will. I honestly think Reddit's going to stick to its guns and not be swayed.
I think they have to. We're talking about this as if everyone knows what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, this is all preamble set up to get you intrigued. What are we talking about? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the show initially, but Reddit is in the midst of a major revolt by its users. We talked about the API changes. They made the announcement a couple of months ago. I think it was a couple of months ago that they were going to start charging for access to the API, and then a couple of weeks ago they released the actual amount of charge for developers and people who want access to their data. Ultimately, it basically means that third-party apps are dead in the water. No third-party app could afford to run their browser, app for Reddit, given what they'd have to pay. Apollo, Reddit is Fun, Sync, that's just a few of them that I've noticed, have all announced they're going to shut down on June 30th. That is the day before the price changes go into effect. They've been very, very vocal about not wanting to shut down, of course, because they built a business around this stuff. It's quite something. More than 8,000 subreddits right now are inaccessible. They're set to private or browse only, and this is to signal their displeasure with the API changes and the wide-reaching impacts of those things. Some of those subreddits have said, yes, we're going dark. I think it started yesterday, but we'll come back on Wednesday. This is, to show our support. Other subreddits, some of the moderators have said, we're going dark and we're staying dark until changes are made. So it'll be really interesting to see how many of those revert, how many of those are just done. Because I don't know. I have a good feeling. Let's see here. I have a strong feeling, there we go, that Reddit is not going to sway from their decision. So, it could happen, but Mishal, what you got?
Yeah, so just to make this a little bit more, I'm getting some feedback there. Oh, sorry. Just to make this a little more relevant to AAA listeners. So some of the largest subreddits on Reddit that specifically relate to Android, such as our Android apps, the our Google Pixel subreddit, for example, those all went dark in protest of the API changes. And they said they were going to be going live, starting later tonight. They only announced that they were going dark for 48 hours, and that 48-hour time period would have run out, tonight. But just a couple of hours ago, they all announced, at least those three that I mentioned, announced that they're going dark for a whole nother week. So on June 20th now is their tentative date for when they'll go public again. Or they might extend their blackout and continue indefinitely, like some other subreddits have announced they'll be doing. Who knows? And as you mentioned, Jason, Reddit does seem like they are just trying to hold on and hope this all blows over. There was even an internal memo that the Reddit CEO sent out to employees earlier today, which was, of course, leaked to The Verge. And they published it all for everyone to see. And that's gotten yet more blowback from users who, don't like the approach that Reddit seems to be taking, which is just to hope it all blows over and everyone forgets. And, this is just a temporary thing that, no one will care about within 2 days. Well, so, in response to that, a lot more subreddits have said, we're going to be taking this blackout indefinitely. And we're not going to come back online.
I tell you who's going to be the winner in all this? You want me to predict it right now?
Who?
Discord.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I've seen a lot of that, actually, kind of looking through comments of the articles and everything. And they're like, you know what? I've already left Reddit. I hadn't prior to this. I have now. I'm now in Discord. Here's the question I have. I realize we have a Discord. We have a Club Twit Discord. And it's very easy for me to know what the deal is about Discord through that. But if I wanted to find like an Android Discord... I feel so stupid saying this, but how do I discover that?
Old man Hal's trying to get on to Discord, everybody. He wants to tell you.
The thing is, I'm on Discord, but I'm on a very curated Discord thing. It's our Discord, right?
That is a
good Hal.
That is a good point, though. Like, how do you find Discord? How do you find something on Discord? It's kind of a terrible experience. Like if you want to search right now, like a lot of people have mentioned, you want to Google search something, you just add Reddit to the end and you'll find something useful, right? You can't do that with Discord. You can't search Google.
The problem with Discord is there's a bunch of little closed gardens that you need to find the door. You need to find the
That's the problem, and that's the good thing about it.
So to help old man Hal here,
Thank you. Please help me.
I did go to Google to get their generative AI search result to tell me.
Good.
I said,
I'm happy you went to the lowest hanging fruit, Ron.
I said, well, no, it's actually not that bad. It said how to find Discords. How do I find these Discords?
How do I find them Discords?
So what I do think is funny is that there's like it gives 5 answers, and 2 of them are extremely helpful, and 3 of them are very funny. So the extremely helpful advice it says is use the Discord app. There's actually a explore public servers icon on the Discord app where you can explore, like similar in the way that where you can just browse Reddit. You can browse public servers that are like, hey, we're open to anybody, and you could type in Android or whatever thing and find. Now you might not know what you're walking into, but that's a way to find them. The other advice it gives is to use Discord directories like Disboard, Discord Me, or top.gg, which I guess are websites that are aggregating directories of Discord, so you can go find them. Again, your model may vary. There's no thing to say. Like, there definitely is a white space here in terms of discovery of Discord, because the other 3 advice it gives is use social media. Look for Discord links on social media. Just look for them. Or my favorite one and relevant to this topic, use Reddit. Search for Discord servers on Reddit.
Oh boy, it's an infinite loop, isn't it? We would be caught in an infinite loop.
And the last one I think is the best, because it's almost as if it doesn't realize the nerds that are out there and the old people. Use your friends. Some of your friends are probably already on Discord.
Oh boy.
Which honestly is true. I mean, like Jason, you would talk to Michelle and be like, hey, I want to get on a cool Discord for Android, and Michelle probably can rattle off 5 of them or whatever it is, and you know, probably Michelle, you probably have your own Discord that you're running, right? I wouldn't be surprised, but and that's the thing, Jason, you could open up your own. Like that's what Discord is so decentralized and so kind of like in that way that it's both extremely powerful, but it's also extremely limiting, because unless you have that magic key or because personally I would be afraid to just wander into a Discord where I don't know. I don't have a referral or a context,
right.
You know?
It's a lot more personalized. Well, personalized, maybe that's the wrong word.
Yeah.
It's a lot more specific to the people that are in there. Like Reddit, you know, a subreddit, anyone can find r/Android. But certain Discords, like you said, you only get access to them if you kind of know how to get access to them. You know, a lot of them happen like might be supported by Patreon. Like it might be this person has a show about this thing and they have a Discord. And so that's
what we do. That's what we do with iFanboy, is that our iFanboy patrons get access to our Patreon, and only the paying patrons, right? You know, so it's, yeah.
And it keeps, you know, conversation. It's a little bit more kind of specific to the people who are actually there and the reasons why they're there. You know, the support that they've given to be there. Just being a random person suddenly showing up, you're like, oh, hey, everybody, I'm here. I don't know what kind of trouble you would get into in Discord, to be honest. But there you go. Something to consider. I don't know. Do we think that Reddit's going to... I mean, this is obviously going to be good for Discord. Do you think Reddit is kind of going the direction of Dig right now? Are we witnessing the Digification of Reddit at this moment?
I don't think people are going to be leaving like Reddit en masse, if that's what you're referring to, you know, with the Dig, the infamous Dig exodus. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, the most likely thing is, like, people have speculated, and it's most likely the reason why Reddit is doing all this is because they want to IPO. You know, if investors, you know, see this backlash and decide we're not going to back Reddit for its IPO, and that actually, you know, that's probably what actually would change things. You know, that would be a game changer for the direction that Reddit is going. If the backlash actually, you know, really makes investors say, hey, we don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, right? And then maybe they'll say, we made a mistake, you know, we got to think things over. And, you know, I think probably some of the API changes are probably inevitable, raising the prices, but not to the level that they did, you know, the absurd 20x level or whatever.
Yeah, and I have a couple more points, and we've been talking about this behind the scenes back in the All About Android coffee in the staff break room while we were in between meetings. But we were talking about it, and all this reminds me of the lesson that we learned, that I saw happen in real time years and years ago, when there was this entire economy built on Facebook games, and then Facebook just yanked it. They just shut it down, and all these companies, Zynga and all these companies, just went kind of like in upside down directions, because anytime you build a business based on someone else's service, you are at the whim of that service. And we literally just went through this with Twitter. The same thing. Like, Twitter didn't even, Twitter just shut it off, and didn't tell you. Remember when Talon shut down? Like, it was just like, wait, it stopped working? What happened, right? Yeah. So, admittedly, we all know what's going on over there. But anytime you build, and that's the thing. And Discord to a certain degree is also a potential risk, because there's people building stuff around Discord. Roblox is a big one. There's all these developers building in the Roblox kind of thing. And you have to play by the rules of the sandbox you're choosing to play in. And now the Reddit sandbox has decided to start charging you where they weren't. And I get why they're doing it. We talked about it already. I think we talked about it on the show previously. They're looking to monetize, which totally makes sense. And if they, and we speculated, Michelle, to your point, they didn't have to raise the price as high as they did. Maybe they did it to ensure people wouldn't do third-party apps, because they want to control the experience in their app, and that way they can monetize that app and do stuff with that. I can hear the MBAs explaining what the strategy is here. Yeah. And sadly, and as embarrassing as it is, when the CEO's memo gets leaked and everybody goes, ha, and they're gonna shut down their Reddits for another week or whatever in protest. And all joking aside, I do think Discord is going to get a burst from this, but I also think it's going to be fine, and it is going to blow over. And ultimately, they're going to, if they stick to their guns, the people who want to leave are going to leave. And the great thing about the internet, the great thing about this world, is that there are millions and millions of people. And for every user who steps out, there might be a brand new user who joins a new Reddit or starts a new Android subreddit, and that builds up from there, and it just kind of self-perpetuates. So I also don't think it's the end of the world for Reddit either.
Yeah. To be fair, I think it's a little different, because I think Reddit, at least, they kind of didn't properly assess the kinds of users that would be affected by the API change, because I think it was an old internet adage that most social media is broken down into a 90-91 breakdown. 90% of users are lurkers. They never post or do anything. The 9% of users are make up the vast majority of comments. Are the whales. The power users, the ones who actually comment, who make submissions that the 90% actually consume. And I think probably an outsized proportion of that 9% probably uses third-party Reddit apps or tools. And that's why there's so much backlash, because a lot of those users are moderators or power users. They're the ones with the control, because unlike other social media platforms, Reddit gives a lot more control over communities to the users.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think you're right there too. Yeah. So
I totally agree.
It's a mess.
Well, I should mention that this Thursday on Tech News Weekly, Micah Sargent is going to be interviewing Christian Selig, who's the developer of Apollo, which is one of the big Reddit apps, definitely on iOS. Apollo's on Android as well, right? I didn't use it.
No, Apollo is just
iOS?
The main iOS app, yeah.
Okay, all right.
There are several on Android.
There are, yeah. Reddit is fun, and Sync was another one. I remember using Sync back in the day. Anyways, he's been, a big voice in all of this. So if you're interested in hearing what Christian has to say, that's this Thursday, twit.tv/TNW, Thursday, June 15th. We'll be having an interview with Christian Selig about all of this. It should be very, very interesting stuff. Okay. And then Ron, this is big news for you if you still had a Pixel Watch.
We're running long. Just a quick footnote here. But hey, the time has come. Pocket Cast for Android Wear is finally here in beta. You can enroll in the beta now with them, and you can get it on your Pixel Watch, Galaxy Watch, TicWatch, and other Wear OS devices right now. And it is compatible with Wear OS 3 and older versions of Wear OS 2. But you will need Pocket Cast Plus, which costs $4 a month or $40 a year. I'm a proud subscriber to Pocket Cast Plus, so I would have gotten it had I kept the dang watch. But it's now June, and this watch came out in October, so a little too late for me. But I'm glad that they got with it. So good job, Pocket Cast. And maybe I'll revisit it with the next watch. We'll see.
Yeah. And if you're out there and you have a Pixel Watch and you finally got your Pocket Cast, do a little very short review for us, AAA@twit.tv. Keep it short, though. Yep. Sometimes we get videos or we get emails and they're just massive or like 4 or 5 minutes. We can't play those. Keep it under 2 minutes at the very, very most, but even a minute is better. So AAA@twit.tv. Let's see here. Our good friend JR Raphael is back. He's got a tip for an app that will turn pretty much anything into a podcast for you.
Good day, team. Lovely to see everyone as always. All right, so all of us here are fans of podcasts, right? Even if maybe we don't necessarily care for all of the hosts of some particular unnamed program.
Hey,
I've said too much. In all seriousness, though, Google's got a great new feature that lets you take anything you're reading on your phone from practically any source imaginable and turn it into your own personal on-demand podcast. Let me show you how it works. So this is part of an out-of-the-way Android add-on called Reading Mode. It's an official Google app that you can download from the Play Store and get on any device this minute. At its core, Reading Mode lets you transform any article into a clutter-free, ad-free delight with just a single swift button press or an on-screen gesture. I like to use the option to press both physical volume keys together myself. And it's not just articles either. This thing will work in email, social media, almost anything on your phone where some manner of text is involved. And as of an update that's rolling out right now, you can also start playing any text on your phone out loud and then have it keep playing even as you do other things on the device or shut off your screen entirely. Here, check it out.
15 Android settings that'll strengthen your security. Some of the most important Android settings are also the most buried, and they're absolutely worth your while to uncover.
Yeah, how about that? All you got to do to get started is install the free Google Reading Mode app from the Play Store. Open it up, follow the steps to activate it for the first time. Make sure you pick your preferred way to trigger it. Again, for me, the pressing of the two physical volume buttons together has been the most easy, natural, effective option that's there. And then anytime you've got text on your screen, just perform that action, then press the play button in the Reading Mode panel that pops up. After that, you can go back to your home screen, head over to another app, turn the display off entirely. Your phone will keep on reading to you until it reaches the end of that article or whatever type of text you were using. Not bad, right? Remember, you can get tips like this and tons of advice that doesn't appear anywhere else in your inbox every Friday with my Android Intelligence newsletter. 3 new things to try each week and gobs of other googly goodies along with it. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to sign up for free if you haven't already, and I'll send you a trio of awesome bonus tips as an extra special welcome. That site again is androidintel.net/twit. Well, that's all for today. I'll see you over in the newsletter, and I'll see you right back here next week.
The reading voice is a little stiff, a little robotic. Yeah, it'd be hard for me to listen to a really, really long thing with that voice, but I have before, because there are other apps that do this. Pocket, I think, does this, right? Where you can kind of have it read an article to you. So there are some.
Yeah, I've heard this in other apps for sure. Yeah,
but this is way more like streamlined for just that feature. So that's neat. Reading Mode. I didn't realize that Google had that as like an actual app to download from Google. So check that out.
That was, I think. Yeah.
What's that?
They just announced that. That's why probably you didn't realize.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I didn't realize that this was like topical news. I thought it was just one that he had discovered. I hadn't even heard of that. So, okay, neat. Well, there you go. Check out JR releasing the news. AndroidIntel.net/twit. And for any viewers of the show who may have noticed, JR was wearing a normal shirt this time. I did check with him and ask him why, and he said he thought it was Halloween. So there you go. Maybe next week he'll be back on the funny shirt train.
I'm sure you will. I think, doing this weekly, you run out of, trust me, as someone with a closet full of t-shirts, it is
totally.
It is hard.
There's only so many crazy shirts you can have before you start recycling through them. It's fine. Go on a tear of wearing just normal shirts. It's fine, JR. We won't judge you that much.
You be you.
You be you. Exactly. Coming up next, your feedback and only your feedback. AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW AAA. We actually, this week was a big week for feedback. Thank you, everybody. We got a lot of them. What I do when we get a lot of them is I put them into a page in our doc for the weeks that we get less. And so if your email or your video mail, because we did get one of those and it's not in today's show, if it's not being played today, check out future episodes. It might get played in the coming weeks. So there you go. All right, Ron, you got the first one.
All right. Well, this first email is one of my favorite kinds of emails because it is a follow-up and a end of the story. You might remember 2 episodes ago, we heard from Tim Benson in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who had some issues with his Pixel Pro wireless charging and had bad experience with Google in terms of customer service and trying to get it solved. And they were considering jumping. Remember, we had challenged the audience to write in and tell us if you're considering leaving Google and why. Well, Tim writes in, and boy, is this a sweet, sweet end of the story. So Tim says, a couple of weeks ago, I wrote in with my issue regarding wireless charging issues to Pixel 6 Pros. And this was in episode 632 for you listeners, so 2 episodes ago. He says, I was in the middle of multiple calls to Google Fi. After the initial response of being out of warranty, can't do anything for me, and ending the call, I called back twice more. The first redial, I was disconnected while waiting for him to see what to do. You might remember, by the way, insert here, we told him to keep trying. Call Google back and say, hey, I'm going to leave you. What can you do for me? Remember? That was the advice we gave him. Yeah. Remember? Okay. So he tried once. The guy was trying to help him, but it got disconnected, which is infuriating when that happens.
Oh, I hate that. It's the worst.
Especially if you're making headway.
Yes, yes. You get right to the point that you want to, and then it disconnects. You're like, no.
Yeah. But Tim calls back and he says the second representative was super helpful and, more importantly, empathetic to my plight. She said that the issue was escalated and I would receive an email within a day. I didn't believe it. And then I actually got an email within a day stating they were making an exception for my 2 Pixel 6 Pros.
Nice.
I immediately ordered the 2 new phones with a hold for both on my credit card. The wireless charging works and everything is installed. Yeah. My wife wouldn't install the security updates until I proved mine would still charge with them installed, which I don't blame her. She wasn't ready to jump to the fruit company, but she was definitely wanting a Samsung. As for now, she's just happy having her wireless charging back.
Aww.
So if anything deserves a round of applause for both Tim and his wife and Google. Look, they made it right. It warms my heart. So
they did it. Sometimes you just got to keep trying. I mean, that's really good advice in general when it comes to customer service. You call customer service, you don't get the reception that you're hoping for or that you expect or that you deserve. Sometimes just call back. You'll get somebody else and they're having a better day or whatever the case may be. I've certainly experienced that. So that's a good lesson in that. So Tim, congratulations. That's awesome. That's great news. Good stuff. Mike in Dubai wrote in to say, I appreciated Jason's Pixel 7a review. Thank you, Mike. He said, and largely agreed with it, except for one key issue, the battery. I'm upgrading from a Pixel 5 that was fine other than the battery. So imagine how disappointed I was when my Pixel 7a was lasting about as long as my Pixel 5. Because the battery is so bad, I keep my phone at 60 hertz and try battery saving techniques. I feel like I mentioned like the battery wasn't anything to write home about. I guess I didn't say the battery was awful because in my experience, the battery wasn't awful, but it wasn't great either. It was very middle of the road for me. So I think we're kind of in similar realm here. Mike says, the other issue is how slow the wireless charging is. Now, I know I did mention that. The other night, I went to bed with my phone at 15% or less battery, and when I woke up 6 to 7 hours later, it was under 90% charged. I wouldn't be too worried about it if the phone didn't already have an underwhelming battery. I otherwise enjoy the phone, but having a battery that doesn't even last a day with moderate usage is leading me to warn people away from it. As far as the wireless charging is concerned, it is slow. 6 to 7 hours on a wireless charger. That's, God, I think the wireless charging, what was it? Something like 7 watts. It's pretty slow, but I still think that it should charge your phone to full. What that leads me to think is that maybe this is one of those, Google has a feature on their Pixel phones where it learns your sleeping habits over time and it doesn't charge to full until it thinks you're about to wake up and then it tops it off. That could be happening. I don't know. That's my guess. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, they have a feature called adaptive charging.
That's it.
That like charges to 80% until I think like an hour before your alarm is set to go off, and then it charges to 100% in the meantime. So maybe they picked up their phone like ahead of their alarm, just happened to wake up, like,
or it hadn't learned them yet.
A little more information,
yeah, or learned when they get up.
Yeah, maybe.
And I do think that that's a feature that you can disable in settings. You can turn off adaptive charging, so it just goes straight to 100 as fast as possible. The wireless charging is slow, though, no question. If you just have a short amount of time to charge, you're much better just plugging it in than you are throwing it on the wireless charger. But it should bring it up to full overnight. Would be my guess. So take a look for that adaptive charging setting. And see if that helps. I mean, I think the longer term outlook on your battery is that it might have a shorter lifespan because of that. At least that's why Google implemented adaptive charging, was to improve the longevity of your battery health. But that's a then problem, not a now problem. So, it's a horrible way to look at it. But it's true. Live in the now. Give yourself as much battery as you can right now while you can. So thank you, Mike, for emailing. Appreciate it.
All right. And that brings us to the email of the week.
Oh, yeah.
And this week's email of the week comes from the far up north, hopefully not the burning up north, but Stephen Cedrone writes in from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Hopefully everything's safe there. Oh, geez, don't get me started on the smoke in New York. Although I know it's nothing compared to the West Coast. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Stephen writes in from Canada and says, I got a Pixel 7a to replace my Pixel 5. Not because I needed it, but because with the security updates ending this October on my Pixel 5 and the deals going on right now, I thought I'd snap one up. It wasn't just a sale price, but I also got a free Pixel A earbuds, which I then promptly sold on Facebook Marketplace because I didn't need them. This further reduced the price of my phone.
Heck yeah. Great strategy.
Ingenuity. Love it.
Yeah.
So Steven says, overall, I'm really happy with it. I did notice there are a lot of bugs in the Google version of Android on it that don't exist in other AOSP versions of Android, like Graphene OS. These would include apps not loading, freeing, crashing, and I would notice a lot more call drops with 5G enabled versus 4G LTE. And I'm in a heavily saturated 5G area with lots of coverage. This doesn't happen on the AOSP version of Android when traveling in the same areas, so perhaps Google messed something up with their modem code. I always load Graphene OS, and then I add the Google Play Services framework on top because I find I get a far better battery life out of my Pixel phones with Graphene because it sandboxes the Google Play Services and Google Play framework, so drastically cuts down on all the telemetry going back to Google. I have confirmed this with Wireshark sniffing what is coming out of the phone on my network, and there's a lot of background information going back to Google on the stock OS that ships with these. That said, with the stock OS, I can get down to about 30% charge after my day of actively being on the phone. With Graphene loaded, I get down to about 58%, so you can see a huge difference eliminating the Google telemetry. And Steven, this is not only email of the week, this is like email of the month. This is like mind-blowing, right? So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, Graphene OS, you can find it at grapheneos.org. And it is a private and secure mobile operating system with Android app capability, and it is developed as a nonprofit open source project. So as you can clearly see here, what it is it's a mobile OS that sandboxes Android and allows you to still have the Android experience and use Android apps, but allows you to have a little more security around what data is coming out of your phone and what, and how often you're using it, that sort of thing. And this was actually formally, and I hadn't heard of Graphene, but I did hear of its predecessor. This actually started back in 2014 and it was known as Copperhead OS. And Jason, do you remember Copperhead OS?
Yes.
We talked about that, right?
Yeah, we did. Absolutely.
Yep.
At one time, I think we were going to have someone from Copperhead on the show. We may have even... We did.
I think
Episode 279. There we go. Gina Trapani joined us, and also James Donaldson, CEO of Copperhead at the time. There we go.
There are some things. The sandboxing has more to do with the privileges and permissions that are granted to Google Play. So this is Graphene OS is Android. It's not like you're not like running Android in a virtual machine or anything. It is Android. It is AOSP. And it's just a more secure version of it with like a bunch of security features and implementations and features added on top of AOSP. The modem code, though, that's still the same modem code from Google. Like Graphene OS isn't actually modifying the modem code like in the Tensor processor or anything like that. So that's still the same modem code. So I'm kind of curious how it's less like some of the bugs that you had with apps freezing, not loading, and crashing. That's kind of curious to me because I can't imagine Graphene OS would significantly change that aspect of just using day-to-day apps. But, that is your experience. So I can't really say, that's not what you're experiencing. But if you are the kind of person who wants the most secure, experience with your device, then definitely this is one of the options to consider to install on your device.
Well, what I think is interesting though, Michelle, though, is it's there's one corner of the world which is like security conscious and like I don't want my data going and blah blah blah. But what Steven's argument here is making is that he's saving like 30% of his battery on a day-to-day basis by limiting that telemetry and all that data going out there. So if you are battery conscious, this could be an option too. So
there is an aspect to it. Yeah, it is well known that if you just install Android from source without Google apps, you can save a lot of battery life because those Google apps do a lot of heavy lifting.
They're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Yeah, absolutely.
They do a lot of stuff with like push notifications, location services, and all these other things that apps rely on. And when you get rid of all that, all of a sudden, a lot of that stuff doesn't work, but you save a lot of battery life. And I mean a lot of battery life in the process. So the Sandbox Google Play services that is implemented as an optional add-on in Graphene OS, it allows you to use Google Apps and a lot of APIs that are provided by Google Apps, but not everything is working. Like Android Auto, for example, doesn't work with sandboxed Google Apps. So maybe there's some
Google Pay probably doesn't
some of that
work.
going on. Like some of the stuff that isn't working maybe is like really battery heavy. And because that stuff isn't working with the sandbox implementation, maybe that's why the battery life is significantly improved in this person's experience. Or it could be because of the telemetry. Like there is telemetry being collected by Google Apps, for analytics purposes, for, improving the updates or tracking, what users are using, what features and so on. Maybe that is contributing significantly to battery life. Like I personally don't think that's a big contributor. It's probably the push notifications, the location access, and all those other things. So, if you do install, all the above, it's really hard to pin down what exactly is draining the battery on such a, complex OS as Android, all the kind of things that are going on in it. But if you do install something like this and you experience better battery life, more power to you.
Well, that's it. That's another nice benefit on top of what probably most people are using Graphene OS for, which is the privacy and the security aspect of it. Being able to sandbox things, being able to kind of control what's happening from a data perspective, when that happens and that sort of stuff. Getting the battery improvements is, obviously, I think for most people, that's probably a secondary benefit. But I've not used Graphene OS. I'm certainly curious about it. So that's why when I saw this email, I thought, oh, great opportunity to kind of shine a light on it. I know we've talked about it in the past at times, and I'm assuming that there is no Google Pay on something like Graphene OS, right? Because that's like, from a security standpoint, that's an API that is really rigid as far as Google is concerned. So, but I don't have the data points to know this specifically. Oh no, actually, okay. Cousin Ujah in our Discord posted, well, all I have is a subreddit clip from the Graphene OS subreddit that says, Google Pay does not and likely never will work for NFC payments on Graphene OS because Google chose not to allow it to work on any operating systems that they have not explicitly whitelisted, and they won't whitelist Graphene OS. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense. So there are certain things that you don't get, certain conveniences that you don't get. But as we know in the world of security, convenience and security don't always travel together. Usually if you have a higher security, things are less convenient. And so there's a reason for that. So there you go. But yes, Stephen, congratulations. I'll let Ron do the honors of closing.
It is the email of the week.
I don't want to steal that from you. It's your opportunity to get the music after you speak.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. A wonderful episode, as usual. So much fun hanging out with the Android bros, talking Android until Win comes back next week. To balance
Android
things
bros.
out.
Android bros trying to find discords. Everybody got to go out on the street and ask the kids where the discords are, where they're hanging out.
Old man Android bro.
Old man Android bro wants to get on the Discord.
Wants to know how to get onto Discords.
I got all these gifts and I don't know where to share them.
How do I find them Discords? Michelle, thank you so much for being on. This was a perfect episode to have you on. What do you want to leave people with today?
Thanks, Jason. If you want to follow me to find out what's new in Android, as always, I'm posting on Twitter at Michal Rahman. I would be posting on Reddit, but with the subreddits gone black, with them on their blackout process right now, you'll find me on other platforms in the meanwhile, such as Mastodon, on Discord, etc. at Michal Rahman. So follow me to find out what's coming in Android.
There you go. Michal Rahman, anywhere good social media is found, or something like that. We can workshop that one a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah, we can take that back into the writer's room. We can take that back into the so
we can make that better. What about you, Ron? What have you workshopped?
So for me, I gotta tell you, listen, like I love the idea of Discord, even the Club Twit Discord. I love that everyone gathers there. I love the functionality of it. Like I actually had a meeting with Discord earlier this week about some stuff for my day job, and I just love the whole thing. I can't bear the weight of another platform. I'm sitting in front of my computer all day in front of 11 email inboxes, Slack with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 active workspaces, right? I so want to be. And it's the same feeling I get because I was like, what am I going to plug tonight? It's like, oh, well, I'm all excited because I'm on Blue Sky. And I found out that Blue Sky has a web client. So because my whole thing with Blue Sky is I wasn't posting to it because I'm not on my phone as much, but I'll be in front of my computer, cool, I can use Blue Sky. But I just don't have it's so much messaging, so much.
Yeah.
I'm not even counting all the active WhatsApp conversations I have and the text messages.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And Instagram DMs. And the worst is that I have friends who are messaging me in multiple places throughout the day on Slack, Instagram DMs and text messages and WhatsApp. And it's like, oh, just stop the noise. So I love it in theory. I want to be in Discord. I want to be on Blue Sky. I just don't, I'm tired. I'm old and tired, but I don't know where this rant came from. That said, you could follow me.
Old man Richards.
You can follow me on probably the platform I'm most active on is Instagram. I'm at RonXO there. I am also on Twitter. I am also on Mastodon, although I don't really check it. Just search for RonXO. You can find me. But I am also on Blue Sky, which today I just found out that Blue Sky has a web client. And so I'm going to try posting there more often. So if you're on Blue Sky, go find me there. But in the meantime, also, you can go to ifanboy.com. You subscribe to that. Listen to the guys talk about comic books. Listen to me every month talk about movies and TV. And if you're into pinball, do check out scorebit.io. Where you can find out all our cool stuff that we're doing pinballs, including our app for Google Play Store. In the Google Play Store, you can get for Android. We work very hard in it. So yeah, thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Ron. So much fun week after week talking Android.
So
with
tiring. Just so tiring. Michelle, I wish I had your energy or
resilience.
I don't mean this to sound negative, but lack of responsibility.
Well, that does sound a little negative.
No, but I just mean like you don't have to chase two toddlers around and make sure they're fed all day. So like, yeah,
got it.
That does help.
It takes a lot out of you. You are very responsible. I will give you that. It's just you don't
Important
have
clarification there.
Without your dependencies. There you go.
Right, there we go. That's better. That's better. Big thanks to J.R. Raphael, Android Intelligence. Just go to androidintel.net/twit. Subscribe to his newsletter. That'll keep him throwing us the segments that he does, because you guys learn a lot. I learned something today. I didn't even know that app existed until today. So there you go. Thank you, JR. Thank you, Victor, for everything you do behind the ones and twos over there. Thank you, Burke, behind that door over there, because he's not in here right now, but he helps out with the show as well. Let's see here. Like Ron, I'm not doing a whole lot of social these days. At Jason Howell on Twitter, twit.social/@JasonHowell. Sometimes on Reddit, but Reddit's doing its thing. Definitely in the Discord. I pop in the Discord from time to time, so you can find me in those places. Discord, you might ask. Where do I find this Discord? Well, Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit. You get exclusive access to the members-only Discord that we've talked about a number of times. Discord's cool. This is a great way to experience Discord and get it into your life. You also get all of our shows with no ads. It's an ad-free subscription tier. That's really the basic. That's really the foundation of Club Twit. And then you also get exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed content, tons of extra content, shows you can't find outside of the club, pre and post show discussions, broken down and put into this feed so that you don't, if you miss the live show, it doesn't matter. You get it there anyways. All for just $7 per month. Twit.tv/Club Twit. And not to mention, it helps us out directly. You know what else helps us out directly is, why don't you go to our website, twit.tv/AAA, and subscribe to the show. If you have not subscribed already, that is the most important signal that you can send from our site about this show. That will make sure that you get every single episode that we ever put out automatically. It helps the numbers that we translate to our advertisers. That's the information that they need to know. They need to know that you're out there. And how they know is you subscribe, you get the episode. It's really important. So twit.tv/AAA, you can find everything you need to know about how to subscribe. You can also find all of our audio and video content there as well. Thank you so much for watching each and every week to this episode of All About Android, and to all of them to come. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, Editor-in-Chief of AdAster Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.